Good day and welcome to Westchester Talk Radio. I'm John Marino. We are WestchesterTalkRadio.com, and we are produced by Sharc, S-H-A-R-C, with a C, not a K, Creative, and we are made possible by, powered by, people like our good friends over at Entergy, the Indian Point Energy Center. At Entergy, they promise to power up Westchester right through April of 2021. Also made possible by Lipolis Electric. Never be left in the dark. Get Lipolis. And Hightower Westchester. At Hightower, they manage your wealth to a fiduciary standard. Here at Westchester Talk Radio, we welcome you to another edition of the Cup of Joe political show. We are joined by the supervisor of the town of North Salem, Warren Lucas. Mr. Lucas, thank you for joining us here on Westchester Talk Radio. No doubt it's been a 2020 like no others so far.
Yeah, as they say, John, hindsight is 2020. I'm not so sure about this year, but yeah, it's been very unique, very unique.
No doubt about that. Now,
inviting me here, I appreciate it.
Note, the town of North Salem encompasses the hamlet of North Salem, also Purdy's, Croton Falls, Grants Corner, and Salem Center. Your counterpart next door in South Salem, Pete Parsons, we spoke to recently, and we talked with Pete about how beautiful his town is. I would have to say, you right next door, you fall into the same category.
I wouldn't want to say Lewisboro is an absolutely gorgeous town, but I think, of course, North Salem is quite a bit nicer.
All right, so we got a little competition going here. You know, you go into North Salem, you have all the horse farms. Pretty soon, here we are, end of summer. It's apple picking time, maybe a little hay riding, and maybe a little snack at a nice corner cabin, which used to be a private house, maybe turned into a small diner or restaurant. Talking about private houses, I think the office you operate from in Town Center in North Salem at one time was a private house as well. Now it's a governmental facility.
Yeah, the building actually was built around 1760. It was the eastern outpost of the Van Cortlandt Manor. So from all the way over on the Hudson, the manor came about 19 miles east, and this was built by Delancey, one of the Cortlandt's nephews or grandsons. And they didn't be a tourist, so when they left, the building was kind of up for grabs. It was used as a couple of different things, and it actually was an academy at one point, a small school. We believe there were two back then. There were two universities, two colleges in New York State. One was the North Salem Academy, and the other was King's College, which became Columbia. Of course, this didn't become Columbia, but every day I come in here, it's quite a unique building, and it's on the building is right across from the Titicaca River. I have the pleasure of coming in here and really it's almost going back in time every day. And it really looks at the entire character of the town. You know, we're a very rural town. Most people in Westchester are very familiar with, you know, below 287, a lot of apartment buildings, structures and stuff. As you get further up north, we just chatting a little bit about Lewisboro. But as you get further up north, you get a little more rural, especially in the eastern corner of the county. In fact, I think we have about 50% of the agricultural land in Westchester County, part of the agricultural district. So coming to work at this building every day is really a pleasure. And we have about 3 or 4 buildings on the campus here, and they're all varying ages. The newer ones are probably 1840s. But this is definitely the older one. As I said, it's on the National Historical Registry. So every time you have to change the pane and glass, it becomes a little bit of an issue, but it's definitely very nice.
Now, before we talk about the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on North Salem, I have to point out that you and your staff, everyone pretty much has come to work every day straight throughout. You were able since day one to set up a social distancing procedure and program at the town hall offices in order to keep everybody safe and make sure everybody would be able to come into work every day if they wanted to, yet work at home if need be.
Yeah, we had the extra laptops and things, the Surface Pros, so people had to work at home, they could do that, and we have access to our systems here. So as long as you have dial-in or network connectivity, you can do email and then some of the other work stuff. But what was interesting, the buildings, they're obviously all rooms. The building that my planning board and my, my Texas and the recreation recreation. And that used to be actually a house also. That was the 1840s, 1850s or so. And so everybody is pretty much in their own little room, and it made it very, very easy for us to come in and actually keep social distancing and keep the masks on when people came out of our room. But you actually could get some stuff done. It felt a little more normal than some of the other places, some of the other municipalities that I've talked to some of the supervisors and mayors. So we were able. I was every day through March on. And most of the people in the building, not everybody, we had a few people that opted to work at home. We were trying to follow the governor's guidelines. So, highway department is out because they're always working together typically. So we had them split up. Most of the people down in town offices were here almost every day. It worked out very, very well for us.
How about the effects of the pandemic?
On the town in general?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, one of the things that happened very early on is we have 2 nursing homes in town. And I think to date, we've had about 150 cases out of a population about 5,200. So it's about 3%, pretty good number of cases. About 110, 120 of them were in the nursing home. And it was kind of a travesty when it was all happening. When you back, I was under the Department of Health in Westchester County, nursing homes. I was going to the governor's office and we need to do something here because this is not good. They were taking COVID patients and actually putting them in our nursing homes and also in Somers, and obviously throughout the state they were doing that. So that obviously increased the number of positive cases substantially. But it worked out well. One of the things, and you see a lot of it right now, people are leaving some of the more congested areas, New York City and such, and they want to get up where they have some room and some space. And that's one of the things that we do have here in North Salem, 52 square miles. You mentioned all the hamlets before, Purdy, Croton Falls. Salem Center, most of that's down under the reservoir now, but we do call it Salem Center. We have a lot of open land, even around some of the areas in Croton Falls. It's a very short drive to Audubon property, to North Salem Open Land Foundation. They have 1,200 acres of land where you can go around and just walk around. The zoning here in the town now is 4 acres for houses. So people have room, and we've had just recently, you talk about real estate and stuff, it's been going pretty crazy. Everything has been sold because people are moving out of New York City. So it made it a little bit easier for the people that were here. I think they were able to go outside and do some other things that you really wouldn't have been able to if you're down in Yonkers or some of the places where you're much more densely packed. You have to, every place you go, you have to leave your mask on. Here it wasn't quite the case. So you could get outside and spend some quality time with the family, which we did all the time. My wife and I and my daughter, we were up on some of the Open Land Foundation. We have a beautiful couple 100-acre parcel. It's called Baxter Road Preserve. And we were up there walking, several times a week outside. And it was, very pleasant. Actually, some of that stuff you tend not to do as much when we didn't have the COVID problem. So that's one of the nice things about North Salem. It's very rural, a fair amount of property per resident. And we have just a huge amount of open land, horse trails and things like that. So
during the pandemic, especially early on, I noticed throughout Westchester, maybe more than any other place around our region, how there was no political parties, no Democrat, no Republican. County Executive Latimer, a Democrat working with you, for example, a Republican working with Republicans, everybody crossing the aisle to work together to make things happen, to make things possible, to keep people as safe as possible. Speak to that, if you would, and how rare that is with people seemingly refusing to cross the aisle at every level today.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I have been lucky enough. I grew up in town, so I've been here 66 years, and this is my home. If I screw up here, as President Bush used to say, I'm going home to Plano, Texas. Well, I don't have any place else to go. If I screw up here, I'm kind of
you're in your own Plano, Texas.
Yeah,
right?
This is it. So I gotta have to make everything work out. But because I've been on the town board so long, I've had a lot of opportunities to do different things. And I was president of the Westchester Municipal Officials Association in 2016. I'm on the executive board there now. I'm president of the Westchester Putnam Association of Town Supervisors. And so even though I'm a small town, I know everybody. And what I find is there are no, and I've seen them in the past, but right now I can tell you, and I'm talking about years ago, not nobody recently. Every elected official out there works very closely with every other elected official. I see no politics in any of it. George pushes that message all the time. George Latimer, the county exec, we're here to do the work for the people, and this is going to be apolitical. People have different policy, reactions to things and stuff. But when it comes down to, your electricity's out, the garbage isn't getting picked up, can we do things better at the county level or here? Where all of that stuff is just absolutely seamless. And I have to tell you, all the supervisors in the county, I'd almost call them good friends of mine. The same with a lot of the mayors and stuff. I mean, they're all, we call each other up all the time. If somebody else already has the same problem you're looking at now, they're always help to you, as is the county and George. And I've seen it that way for many, many years. There are no really local politics. You get to an election and things like that happen, but typically that's not the case. That's not on. And it's quite refreshing to see that. And I really wish Washington can kind of get on board, because it would be very helpful to the nation.
How about during this reopening now, which has been going on for a while? How has North Salem adapted to the reopening, and how has the reopening been going in town?
It's, we haven't had a case of COVID since July 20th. I know I counted out there, but
a month.
The biggest problem we have are trying to keep kids off of basketball courts when they weren't supposed to be, or making sure that the swimming pool was open the right way. And I have a seniors that may not be this afternoon because the seniors club is still meeting outside, and it's starting to rain up here now. So we try to do things that are reasonable. I think we still have a bunch of people that are very apprehensive about going out, especially seniors. We have a food distribution program in North Salem, and we deliver to area towns too. It's not just us, but we work with Feeding Westchester. And there are a lot of people, probably, a couple of percent of the town that still do not want to come out of their homes. And you have people that have, certain illnesses, or they're compromised in certain ways. So all of those things, we try to put programs in place that allow them to, kind of live as normally as they can. We're delivering foods to homes and things of that nature. So it's been interesting. I can't wait for a vaccine, quite frankly. I think most of us, you go up to people and you go, hey, you put your hand out, and then all of a sudden you realize the elbow goes out. My cousin the other day, I have a second cousin, actually maybe second or third. I see her frequently enough, and I always give her hugs. The other day, I reached over and gave her a kiss on the cheek and said, hey, how you doing? And she almost had a heart attack.
I had a cousin do that to me at the beginning of the pandemic. Hey, cousin, wait a second here. Maybe in a few months we can do that. I saw him again a few days ago. It was, are you trying to avoid me? No, gotta go. So
the biggest the thing that I feel the worst about are the kids, because they've been completely disrupted with school. You talk about the social aspect of this for kids, the young teenagers, 11, 12, 13. But I mean, that's kind of how they grow. That's a big part of it, is the social interaction with everybody in their class, with everybody on their team. And they're missing a lot of that now. And I know it's really, really, really hard for them. We're running some special summer programs, not camps. We had to close our camp, which is a very highly rated camp that we run up at Mountain Lakes at a county park. But we had to close that this year because we couldn't manage the 400 kids with the COVID situation. So things like that, we've made adjustments. As I said, I can't wait for a good vaccine to come out. People keep on asking me, am I going to get it? Or am I going to wait? No, I'm going to get it.
Now, you've been in office since 2009, correct?
Yeah. I worked for IBM for 32 years. The previous supervisor resigned. I was on the town board for, I think, 19 years at the time. And I was the one Republican. I had 3 other Democrats on the town board. 2 of them were there for 1 year. One of them was there for 3 years, and I was there for 19 years. And the 3 of them looked at me and go, you're supervisor. We're appointing you supervisor. You got to take it. And so it was March 9th, 2009. The previous supervisor ended up going to jail over some things. But for about 15 months, I did my IBM job, which is 80 hours a week. That's normal for IBM. And my town job, and I not had a very secretary at the time. I had an admin person. Marion Franco would not have been able to do that. So, I praised that her. But by June of 2010, I retire from IBM. It wasn't the best financial decision in the world, but again, when you want to give back to the community and do things for the community, it's been a blast. I don't know as I would change it now, but at the time it was somewhat apprehensive decision. And what's nice, I think the people appreciate it. I have everybody, you call me up, everybody in town has my cell phone. I've sent it out on all my emails and everything else. And nobody, if they call me, they have a problem. And I'll call them, figure out if we can work through it. And usually we can. So, it's all been good, but it is different than IBM.
How about from a budgetary standpoint now? Will the 2021 budget be the toughest you've ever had to put together?
No. No. When I took over in 2009-10, we were self-insured on our health insurance, and we had a $1.2 million overrun. And that was a disaster of a year between that and everything falling apart. So we already have some good ideas of exactly what we're doing. We actually have fund balance in place. Our guess, and I've talked to the other towns around, and they're missing about 4, 5, 6, 7% of their budgets in those areas. And it's, for us, we don't have the parking fees. The building fees are starting to pick up, but we don't have any court fees, the speeding tickets and all those types of things. And the sales tax is down. So those are the things that we're not getting in, and we're tracking that. And as I said, right now, we're probably about 4 or 5%, maybe 6% down, and we'll figure that out by the end of the year. And we've cut back in a couple of different areas. What's interesting with next year is, it's going to be tight. We do have a little flexibility because we do have a larger fund balance. It all depends on what happens in the last couple of months of the year with sales tax and things. And as I said, I'm hoping when a vaccine comes out, things start getting a little more back to normal. But we'll see. We do have the ability, though, with our fund balance, because in 2009-10 we had almost none. I had a negative fund balance, which is how much money you have in the bank, right? I had a negative fund balance on my highway, and I had only a few $100,000 in the town budget. Now I'm up in the vicinity of $3 million. So we have the flexibility right now financially to go through this fairly well.
And now you have the holidays coming up pretty soon, so that should help the tax base.
Yeah. People have to. If people have the money, they spend the money. I think the sales tax, as the county, George Latimer needed some more money to make the county whole. And the town's got a little more money too for us. And again, we're a small town, but it's given out based on the total throughout the county, not just in the town. So if they buy something, in Yorktown, I get a piece of that. So the town was making about $750,000 a year. This year, I figured it would be about $1,050,000, and of course, we're coming in probably somewhere around $850,000, somewhere around a couple $100,000 short. And none of that's a big deal, but my budget's $6.5 million. So. That's the tax part of the budget. So you lose 65,000 is another percent, and so you lose a couple percent here, a couple percent there. It makes it a little more difficult. But we already started working on the 2021 budget, and I'm fairly comfortable that it'll be a reasonable budget. I'm hoping we'd stay under the tax cap.
When does it have to be submitted by?
Oh, December 10th.
So you have some time. You have a good 3.5 months still.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a process you go through, preliminary budgets and such, and the board works through it. But by the time you vote it in, it's either December 10th. We usually do it about that meeting.
Do you hold a public hearing on the budget?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And again, we pretty much stayed under the tax cap for the last quite a few years, actually. The only time we didn't, we put in a new sewer district over in the Peach Lake area. Cost us about $23 million. We ended up with a $5.4 million bond. The rest was all rents and stuff. And of course, when you're going out and now having people pay that down, there's an increase in your budget. There's no way of controlling that. So we went over the tax cap back then for the Peach Lake Sewer District for the new taxes for that. But in general, we've been under the tax cap. Been very, very lucky.
Here on Westchester Talk Radio, we are joined by Warren Lucas, Town North Salem Supervisor. I'm John Marino, and it's the Cup of Joe political show, WestchesterTalkRadio.com, produced by Sharc, S-H-A-R-C, with a C, Sharc, not a K, Sharc Creative. By the way, catch all of our programming on our YouTube channel, Sharc Creative YouTube. We are made possible by our good friends at Entergy, the Indian Point Energy Center in Buchanan, promising to power us up in Westchester right through April of 2021. Also by White Plains Plains Hospital. Kudos and special thanks to all of our heroes at White Plains Hospital all throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. Wartburg Healthcare and Rehabilitation in Mount Vernon, Parker Sterling Realty in Bronxville, and Michael Labriola Landscape Design and Construction. We thank you one and all here on Westchester Talk Radio. Supervisor Warren Lucas, town of North Salem. As we hit now the back end of 2020, it's time for schools. The governor has announced his state plan. Everybody locally putting a plan together. What do you see happening from what you've been able to cobble together so far for North Salem? Vaunted educational system, well-known educational system, great athletic programs over at North Salem High, longtime legendary athletic director Henry Sassone. So much more in the North Salem schools, one of the best school systems around. What seems to be the plan now?
Well, obviously the school board puts the plan together, not the town. But what we're probably going to end up with is people going to school Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, and alternating with two different groups and trying to maintain. And that allows us to keep the population in the school down enough to maintain social distancing and things of that nature. A lot of this is predicated on distance learning because you still have people trying to do work from home, and it'll be interesting. They've already worked through the buses and how that's going to work to make sure everybody's on and again has social distancing there. And I know a lot of the other school issues and stuff they've been working on internally. But Ken Prieston, he's the superintendent of schools. He has a great team together. Kurt Goulden is also my office of emergency management person down on the school board. And he's obviously very, very focused on this, as is the rest of the school board. So they've had a couple of meetings on it. I don't know if they've finally announced their plan, but it's going to be, every other day you're in school. If you're Group A and Group B, that seems to be the direction that they're going in right now.
We need that vaccine, as you've pointed out a couple of times.
We either need that or a good pharmaceutical, something.
How about now when it comes to social justice and that movement going on everywhere, and police reform too? The governor has passed a mandate. He did this a while back now, about a month ago, saying every town, every city, every locality, municipality, village, hamlet, etc., in the state of New York needs to present to him a police reform plan. Discuss policing, how it's done in North Salem, and what that plan might be.
Well, we have what's called a part-time police force. You're allowed to do that in New York State. So a lot of our cops, we have 14 policemen, and most of them are New York City cops. They're retired New York City cops. So they're not in their young 20s. They're maybe in their 40s or 50s. They've been trained. They've been in situations where they know how to handle themselves very, very well. And
we have all the veterans, right?
Yeah. Veterans is probably a good way of putting it. We have a couple of folks that have been on the police force for 30 years. They're local people. But in general, we have a police force. Nobody there has less than 20 years of policing, and usually under very much more stringent situations and stuff. We reviewed our police guide last year, which tells the police this is how you're going to do everything, just to make sure that we were, everything was up to date, and we're up at the level that a lot of the other larger municipalities were, New York City especially. And we felt very comfortable with what we did, but we're going to go back through it and do it again, take a look at it. Right now, we had a discussion last night at a town board meeting. The governor did say we had to do it, and I think he gave everybody until April of 2021 to put the plan together. The county's working on it right now. My deputy supervisor, Peter Kamenstein, is involved in that. He's on the county police board, I think is the right term. And they're looking at the county cops, their police guide, and all the things they're supposed to do. And they're also looking at all the different municipalities also. So we'll get through that. We just started talking about it last night. Personally, to me, it's a travesty what's happened to the cops. We have such a great force. Everybody loves them in town. They go out of their way for people. I had somebody who, we had a lot of cars stolen recently in the northern part of the county. And one of the cops was up there. He found the car. The person actually left. It stole it from a person's house, and the key was in the kitchen, right on the windowsill. But when they pushed the button, the car started. And they drove it up to another house. They shut the car off to get out to look at another car, and of course the car wouldn't start anymore because there was no key in it. and it was starting to rain. So the cop put his rain. He found it. The windows were down. He put one of the windows was down. He put his raincoat over to make sure no water would get in and stuff. Came down, picked the lady up, and just little things like that. They were just so appreciative. Everybody I talk to loves the police that we have in town, loves the work that they do. If you're going on vacation, you fill out a dark farmhouse, and they'll go up and visit it multiple times and stuff like that. So it's very much community policing because we're such a small community. Everybody appreciates it, likes it. They love our cops. And so we're going to look at it. We don't think there's a lot of changes we have to make because he just went through it last year and updated everything, but we're going to take a look at it, make sure that at least a broader group, that nobody feels that they're disenfranchised and everybody feels comfortable with how our police work and the types of things that they do.
That small town feel matters, where everybody looks out for each other.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And our cops, when you talk to them, it's going to work every day can be a stressful thing for a policeman. They love working in North Salem. They love the people in North Salem. It's almost a love relationship. I never hear anybody complaining about our police. I get calls saying, I just want to tell you what he did, and I want to, make sure that you thank him for me and stuff like that. And yeah, it's a very unique police force, and we have a bunch of great guys.
Not too long ago, we got shocked by the remnants of a tropical storm coming up our way, and in a lot of areas, a bit more than just remnants. And with that tropical storm passing through our area, we had a number of power outages. I know North Salem did, and everything seems to be back in order right now. Are you confident that with this now being the hurricane season, and we have about 3 more months to go in that hurricane season, that if something like this happens again, you do this and everything should be okay?
Well, I've been through Lee, Sandy, Irene. I think who was the first one? Was it Lee or Irene? I can't remember, but I cut my teeth on that one, not knowing what in God's name. You have no idea which way the electricity is coming down the poles and, what transmission group you're on and all. And you just didn't know. So there could be a pole down a half mile up the road, but your electricity came from this way. And so at this point, I hate to say it, but all the supervisors, including myself, I know the NYSEG, the New York State Electric and Gas Network, as well as some of the people that are out there. In fact, I have a map hanging on my wall over here, so all the transmission groups and everything else. And we've gotten to the point, I've been up to Albany testifying, I don't say against NYSEG, but saying this is what they're not doing right, this is what they have to do. That was 18%. And I have to tell you, in the last term, the job that NYSEG did was phenomenal. I think they knocked it out of the park. The only thing they could have done better was gotten everybody outside a day earlier, but they were pulling people down from St. Britain Island off Canada, off the coast off of Canada, because all the states south of us had sucked everybody out of the area that could run a truck, and they were down there. So that was been the only thing, show up a day earlier. But they've done a phenomenal job, and I hope, every time I come into the hurricane season, I'm always sitting there going, never, 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 hope, hope, hope. And I was so excited because we were running really, we had a couple of bad storms here and there, but this little tropical storm, I was actually outside driving around town, and the trees were they were going every which way, blowing, falling down all over the place. I was completely blown away with the force of the wind. And I think NYSEG, and I know Con Ed had a disaster on their hands. Connecticut was a mess. NYSEG managed to, again, pull the stuff together and get us back up. In a few days, most of the people were back up. But right after the storm, 95% of the town was out of power. The biggest problem we've had is with our telecommunications. We don't have FiOS in town. We're pretty much Optimal or Altice Cablevision, whatever the term you want to use. Altice USA is the company. And we were down for an extended period of time.
So what do you do when that happens?
Well, you try to start. We probably had 100 people, 100 elected officials on a call with Altice. And in fact, the deputy executive director of the Public Service Commission was on also. And I think after about an hour, he made an interesting comment. He says, look, I have to go to another call, but let me tell you what I think has to happen. You guys need to come up in Albany and talk to us because. And
they're in France, right? So.
Well, there is. Well,
I know they have offices here.
They created something called Altice USA, so they're owned by somebody over in France. I'm not quite sure what they were thinking, but their customer support needs help. They used to, in the old days, they have nodes throughout the town, and they used to power their network. And so if you lost electricity, there's batteries, they'd run for a few hours. If they'd bring a little Honda generator over, plug it into the wire coming off the pole, power the batteries back up, go to the next one, and their network would stay up. And so what happened this storm is I lost my power, started a generator outside that. I had internet, TV, everything until midnight. I went to bed, woke up in the morning, the batteries were gone. They rang, so their network was now down for 6 days, and they lost 196,000 people went down because of that, and they didn't have to. So things like nowadays, if you can imagine during COVID, how many people are working at home. You can imagine all the teachers. I was getting the calls here. I'm trying to put the syllabus together. We're trying to educate ourselves how to do this stuff with Zoom and everything else. And I have to have the internet. I can't get this work done without it. We are so dependent on this stuff now that, and it's different from a year ago. When you go down and you don't have a good plan for getting this back up and you rely on NICE is going to power us back up, that's a problem. And their customer support was a real problem. So my biggest concern, quite frankly, isn't NICIG, isn't our electric. We've been through that multiple times. If you got a bad storm, we're going to lose electric. We have too many trees up here, and they've been cutting them down, but we still have too many trees in northern Westchester. So the problem isn't really the electric company. I'm sorry?
Zoom chats, Skype, for example, WebEx, everything everybody does online nowadays. All of this has to work for government and business to function. So all the connections have to be connected the right way.
We had no internet here. I had no cell service in town because all the towers go out digital lines. So all the towers in towns were dead after those batteries ran out too. So it was a real problem. If you had an emergency problem, if you needed an ambulance in our town, I don't know how you would have gotten a call out. You would have had somebody would have had to run to the top of the hill someplace to try to get a cell phone.
Or go knock on the neighbor's door and have them drive you somewhere quick and fast if you couldn't do it yourself.
Yeah. And so that was, and on top of that, our police repeater went out. So we lost a lot of communications between our highway department and our police, which is the less than you want. So the communications for us, I don't think we focused on it enough. It's become absolutely critical. I can tell you that I thought we had it bad here, but I was on a call with, I think it was up to maybe at one of the calls had 100 elected officials in Westchester County on the call. They were not happy with the telecommunication company, with Altice. So I think some things have to change there. They need to figure out how they're going to keep the service up. Verizon to a certain extent also, but we have less Verizon used in town than we do Cablevision.
You talk about something like this, cell service. It seems pretty simple, internet service, and yet that proves different strokes for different folks, different towns, localities, cities, municipalities, all have their own individual problems and concerns, and it's not one size fits all.
No, there's actually Supervisor Burdick of Bedford. He put together a group, Northern Westchester Wireless Consortium, and we actually meet and discuss some of these things like, towers, where should they go, what type of coverage we have for emergency services and such. And we're actually working with the county library. We're going to be doing some a study shortly, which kind of lays some of this stuff out, because what we do find is your reliance on this is in the old days, it was just a radio. And now, the police are wearing these things that are all broadband based. They're all internet based. They're cameras. And so you absolutely rely on cell coverage and internet coverage no matter what you're doing and where you are. So that's one of the things that we do these things as groups a lot. We have a 684-84 consortium. There's about 7 towns in the county, including Richfield, by the way, that have gone to the DOT was there, the wireless stuff. We get together very often. I see the supervisors, you mentioned bosses, I see him, Supervisor Lewisboro all the time, Rick Morrissey, Chris Bird, Bedford, Hanson, later this area of Westchester County. We get together all the time, and some things it's with people further away. But we're in meetings before the COVID. We were probably in meetings twice a week. And people probably wouldn't think that, but you get together as a group with a fairly large population, you go to the state or you go to DEP or the DEC or some other organization and say, look, this is our problem. And, they listen to you when there's 5 or 6 towns. And so we've been just doing a huge amount of that work. And that wireless thing that you were saying, it's required for us all now. We're working on that also.
Here on Westchester Talk Radio, we thank the supervisor of the town of North Salem, Warren Lucas, for joining us. Mr. Lucas, it's been, like we've talked about, a unique year, no doubt about that. All the best to you and to everyone in North Salem, and thank you for being part of Westchester Talk Radio and bringing us up to date on all going on in your town in North Salem. Keep up the great work and all the best for the rest of 2020. Let's hope for a much better 2021.
John, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for inviting me. Really appreciate it.
And we here on Westchester Talk Radio, Cup of Joe Political Show, are brought to you by our good friends over at Entergy, the Indian Point Energy Center in Buchanan, where they promised to power us up in Westchester throughout April of 2021. Lipolis Electric, never get left in the dark. Get Lipolis. Hightower Westchester at Hightower. They manage your wealth to a fiduciary standard. Also by White Plains Hospital. Special thanks to our friends there, our heroes at White Plains Hospital for all they've done throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. Wartburg Healthcare and Rehabilitation in Mount Vernon. Also by Park Sterling Realty in Bronxville and Michael Labriola Landscape Design and Construction. We thank you one and all here on Westchester Talk Radio, westchestertalkradio.com, produced by Sharc with a C, not a K, S-H-A-R-C, Sharc Creative. Catch all of our programming on our YouTube channel, Sharc Creative YouTube.